Hi everyone, my name is David Myhr. Welcome to this event in a program series called The University Presents. It's where Luleå University of Technology takes the opportunity to visualize some of the artistic research that is taking place here for a wider public. This is taking place at the School of Music under Luleå University of Technology in Piteå, where I also work as a senior lecturer teaching songwriting, music production, and music business knowledge. In 2013, I began a research project with a tentative working title, Pop Into My Head, an insider's perspective into the making and shaping of melodies in popular music. Page 2. It's an artistic research project, and in artistic research, the artist, him or herself, can be both the researcher and the object of the research. Artistic research can be performed in a lot of ways, but I've decided on my own process of melody making. The thing is, I've always been curious about how others do it. How do they make up their melodies? How are they formed? How do they make their decisions? How does it happen? It's something that seems to be very difficult to find in interviews. My licentiate thesis will also consist of an artistic output in the form of an album. This will be my second solo album, and it's going to be called Lucky Day, hopefully out sometime in 2018. But the thesis will also include a written part where I hope to bring out some tacit knowledge about melody making, even if it's only my own process, and from my little corner of the world, I hope many others will follow, and together we can contribute to a better understanding of the exciting process involved in the art of songwriting. After all, without the song, there would be no music business at all. Hopefully I will be able to present the whole thing in a year from now. Already today, though, I will be able to share with you, for the first time in the history of the world, a couple of songs that will form part of the artistic result. 2 songs that will have their live world premiere today. It's so exciting. I feel almost like Steve Jobs introducing the new iPhone or whatever. In order to collect some data material for this study, I came up with a brilliant idea of looking up people I look up to musically, write songs with them, and document the process on both audio and video recordings. On my wish list, one of the most obvious choices were Brad Jones, the Nashville-based producer, engineer, writer, musician, artist. And our history goes a long way back, although it's been very slow. Back in 1998, when I was in a band called the Merrymakers, we used to listen to his solo album Guilt Flake a lot. That was probably recommended by, are you already here?
Well, I'm just going to watch you talk.
Okay. No applause yet. It's not in the script. It was probably recommended by our mutual publisher in Japan, Jun Shinosaki. And we had some correspondence already back in 2000 about the possibility of writing songs together. And Brad produced a couple of albums with a Japanese artist called Yuko Yamaguchi that we later got to produce, me and my bandmate Anders Hellgren of the Merrymakers. I came by his studio in 2005 when I was over in Nashville with students. So I've been kind of bothering Brad for many years. Hi, it's me, David from Sweden, you know, this Merrymakers guy. And eventually he got to know me. And in 2012, when the rock musicians' bachelor's degree started here at the School of Music in Piteå, I contacted Brad about the possibility of him producing our students here, which is something he's been doing for 5 years now. But we haven't worked together creatively until the last couple of years, and it's been incredibly inspiring. And I thought, if I'm going to have a conversation with Brad Jones, why not bring in a film crew and an audience? So that's what I've been doing. Now, time for my introduction. Brad Jones.
Like go off stage and then come back?
Yeah, well, a little bit, yeah. It's time to make my introduction. Brad Jones has been producing records, large and small, for 25 years with some artists repeatedly. Some of the critics' favorites are Butterfly Boucher, Josh Rouse, Cotton Mather, and Chuck Prophet. You really want to destroy my introduction. Some of Brad's favorites are the Shazam, Hales Carl, Bob Evans, Richard Julian, and Jill Sobule. Though he believes that song is king and always defers to artistry, he will nonetheless admit, and I'm quoting himself now, that he's an opinionated bastard. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Brad Jones! A decision has been made to use these nice SM7s. So Brad, I was curious about what lies behind the description of yourself, that you're an opinionated bastard.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to prepare people that I'm going to have ideas, so that ahead of time they know that that's going to happen. But when they see that I have a sense of humor about it, then they know that I'm not going to be precious about these ideas. I'm still going to have to get every single one of these ideas out. I still have to say it. But I have come to admit, grudgingly, that the artist is king. And if we get in an argument, the artist wins, as it should be. But at the outset, they know that I will have opinions, and they have to at least hear them once or twice. Maybe the idea grows on them, maybe it grows off them. We find out after a few tries. But I don't cling to any of them.
So that's what you mean when you say that you always defer to artistry.
I guess, yeah. I mean, they hire me. There might have been a different time when the producer was a representative of the label and he was there to sort of shepherd these inexperienced people that are being given this money, right? But now the artist just comes directly to me. I work for them.
And we also need to clarify, why did you come to Piteå from Nashville? What are you doing here?
I was curious.
Can you tell about your week?
No, I've never been to Sweden. I wanted to see what Sweden was like. I consider myself a world traveler, so it was to my embarrassment that I had never been to Sweden. And also working with these student bands the last 4 or 5 years in Nashville, I just got to like everybody that I met. And I thought, well, I want to see where these people are coming from. I want to see what this land is all about. So I was happy to be here. And it's kind of interesting that my first taste of Sweden is Piteå. And then later, tomorrow I'll find out about Stockholm. I'm kind of working my way up. But I'm glad I get both experiences, the large city and then the smaller town.
So you think Piteå is not large?
I didn't say that.
Okay. Well, we're kind of proud about the 43,000 inhabitants. So yeah, this is a conversation, and as we all know, with opinionated bastards, it can take hours. I love talking to Brad for hours, and our time here is limited. So as a service to you here, I'm gonna post a link to a podcast in this events little thing, and for anybody watching this online, you will surely find links to a previous interview, nice podcast called Recording Rock Stars with Brad Jones, where he talks about gear and stuff and mixing. That's right. You remember
That's
that
right.
one?
That was an interview that was given to me by a former engineer of mine that worked at my studio, and he was kind of an associate. So obviously the content of that was a little more about gear and stuff.
Because I want to focus on the first part of the music production chain, which involves selections of songs, the actual songwriting, melody and lyrics and arrangement. So anybody interested in gear and engineering and mixing can just go to that nice podcast. And also I'm going to post a discography of Brad's, so you can discover what kind of records he has produced earlier. And the idea is today to frame this conversation around 4 songs. And that's going to be partly my result from or actually presenting the data from my ongoing study. And the first one, I'm going to give you a little glimpse into the mysterious creative process of a song called Wait Until the Moment. And I'm going to ask Brad what went through his mind when he first heard my little melodic idea. And this was already when I started this project in 2013. I sat by the piano, and, well, I didn't get to the piano yet. By this time, it sounded like this.
You know I cannot get it rougher. You know I cannot get it over. You know I cannot get it sad. I know you never No, I never get you to. You know I'll never be the same. You know I'll never be the same. Loving that time of summer rain.
As you can hear, I'm kind of finding my way forward in a melody that I don't know yet. This is supposed to be a pre-chorus. And here's the chorus. But I wasn't happy with that. So I'm familiarizing myself with the verse melody that I just came up with. And I want a nice next section.
You know I cannot see you slam. You know I cannot be the rich and blue. You know I cannot be the case. Another cannot be the case. You know I shoot you in the racket.
Still not happy about the continuation, as you can see. I kind of went into a loop here.
Another cannot be the case. I'm gonna fall in your embrace.
I don't know where I'm going. And I'm saying to the recorder, I'm looking for a pre-chorus here as a part of the research. That's what's going on in my head.
Your embrace. Eller gå direkt på refräng. Can I call in your embrace? And then I go. And then I go.
Trying to find some exciting chords. And after a couple of minutes, suddenly a little melody came up that I thought, well, maybe this could work as a verse. Da, 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 da. So what I'm going to ask you now, Brad, is this similar to your process when you write a melody? You're kind of searching your way forward, trying one thing, skipping that, going into another, or do you work a completely different way?
Well, when you get lucky and you really get onto some lightning in a bottle, you don't have to do any of that. It just appears in about 10 or 12 minutes. But you know, we all know that's a rare occurrence. When it happens, it's a lovely thing. But yeah, most of the time it's more perspiration than inspiration. And also, you know, the lesson for songwriters is, and I tell this to melody writers all the time, people always write a melody and they get the lyric across and they like the chords and they're happy enough with the melody because it seems to work. It's what they were singing in their kitchen that day. But if they were to actually ask themselves, is this a very graphic melody? Is this the kind of melody that I could draw on a whiteboard and it would have a very clear shape that you could recognize from far away? Then you've really tried to make a great melody. But a lot of people just do melodies that chooses whatever note is nearby. It might be a major second away, maybe a third if they're really going crazy. It's just people... It's lazy melody writing. People are not standing back and asking themselves, is that melody, does it have a unique shape? Does it have range? You know, and so it doesn't hurt to after you think you've written the melody, step back and really look at it with a hard eye to ask yourself if you tried hard enough. The best, if you listen to the great melody writers, you know, the Gershwins or the Beatles or whoever, you know, they have melodies that have amazing shape and range. And changing of tempo and things like that. So, yeah, try harder is my final thought on that.
So you don't think 2 minutes on that I spent enough time?
I think it makes a fantastic 2-minute song.
That's great.
Actually, I feel bad, you know, now that I see how the song started. I ruined a perfectly good punk rock song.
You're going to see how we destroy this.
We turned it into something that my mother would like. I feel kind of bad about that.
Well, I'm actually very happy how it turned out because this is my rough demo of what you heard here. And by now I had made a really complicated pre-chorus. Is it loud enough out there?
I know you don't love it. I know you cannot go nowhere love and low it. I know you wouldn't know.
I'm still singing nonsense, trying to look for some word.
If I do it, you know that's nothing new. Way you're gonna do it, you know I love to you.
And now the complicated pre-chorus.
I know my love and know you do it.
You like that?
I love to tell them now to you. I know that better gonna be the way. I'm gonna
Okay, so that was what I sent off to Brad once we had talked on email and telephone about writing together, and Brad suggested, why don't you send me some melodies and I'll send you some melodies and you send some lyrics, and I thought, oh, lyrics, that's one of my weak points, so I'll send you some melodies, and I sent this one, and but before I did, I came home to my wife Paula and said, hey Paula, I wrote a song, it's the first song in the project. Yeah, it's nice, but I've heard it before, she said. Oh, wives always taking you down on earth. And she, born in 91, she brought out this song from 1964. Bread and Butter with the New Beats. Anyway, you dirty thief. Yeah, I said, I didn't know. But anyway, I sent it off to Brad, I waited for 2 weeks, and you can't believe your ears what came back to me.
Okay, this is a melody and lyric idea for Wait Until the Moment. I'm going to try it in F sharp. Wait until the moment, watch the western sky. The signs are real and I can feel our planets all aligned. We can live inside a minute.
And suddenly the melody gives me goosebumps because Brad's such a great singer.
Time is just a dream, but there's forever in your eyes. Well, we're young enough to try to do it, old enough to see it.
Something like that. As you can hear, it's the same verse melody. At least you can recognize da 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 da, but suddenly with new chords and in this kind of, I don't know, Brazilian style. So what's your comment on what happened here, Brad, on those 2 weeks? I'm very curious.
I actually can't remember. You know.
Okay, so we'll pack down everything.
Yeah, show's over. But it's interesting because, I mean, part of why I don't remember is, you know, like everybody, I have two halves to my brain. I have the sensible part of my brain that's organizing and paying attention and facilitating, and then I have the part of my brain that I would probably go to while I'm writing a song where I'm just unfocused. I'm sort of in a dream state, you know, and you want to stay in the dream state as long as possible because that's where most of the creativity is. So I don't remember doing that, but I think I was probably in some kind of a dream state, you know, and then the next day you wake up and you listen to the tape and you say, that's good, no, that's shit. So, you know, you go through it. But the interesting thing about this is that we wrote it across the ocean. And think about it. It's like if, you know, because you and I have a lot of laughs and we stay on the same page. If you and I were sitting across from each other at the kitchen table and you were showing me your idea and I was responding to it, I might sort of stay in your sort of, I like bread and butter. Yeah, we might stay in that world together because we're together in the same room. But because I was by myself in a darkened room and maybe my wife had already gone to bed and, you know, I was able to go in a very different place in the song that it might have been a good thing, doing this sort of distance writing. I've done it a few times with other writers. I kind of like it.
So you kind of prefer distance writing than being in the room?
Well, I mean, it seems like it shouldn't be as good, right? But it kind of is. It's like it allows each person to sort of be creative in his private dream space. And it's tough to stay in dream world in your mind when you're making banter with somebody else, you know? So maybe that was part of it. Maybe that's why I don't remember.
I remember you wrote the day before, you sent the lyrics. The only thing I had sent to Brad was, wait for a moment. And from that, he made a full, beautiful lyric. And you couldn't sing it in the evening because you would wake up the sprouts, as you put it. But you can hear here the day after at the end.
That ending could go on longer. It could be 8 lines instead of 4 lines.
Are y'all done?
Are you all done?
Yeah.
That's your kid?
Yeah, she wants me to pay attention to her, not my guitar.
I think the time has come for the world premiere live of this song. Let us introduce Andreas Dahlbäck to the stage, who is, in his own right, a fantastic producer, drum player, and who we had the fortune of having over in Nashville during the recording. Hey, Andreas.
The blonde Brazilian.
Oops. Not so professional.
First time playing? No, second we did. Yes, I completely forgot about the recording.
Yeah, we more or less played together. Yeah,
We're in another room.
yeah, we might have had headphones on, but we were still playing together. Yeah, yeah. Watching you.
All right, let's see.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
I'll wait until the moment. Watch the western sky. The signs are real and I can feel our planets all aligned. We can live inside a minute, but how the hour flies. Time is just a dream, but there's forever in your eyes. While we're young enough to try to do it, old enough to see it through, don't you think there's something to it, that I'll circle back to you? I was hoping that you kept my number all this time that I've been away, 'cause it might be something big if we could wait another day. Oh, wait until the moment. Watch the western sky. The signs were real and I can feel our planets all aligned. We can live inside a minute, but how the hour flies. Time is just a dream, but there's forever in your eyes. Something in your eyes. Eyes breaking up on the river, and you're standing on the other side. Same place that you were standing on the night we tried and tried. Will I lose you on a bad connection? Will I get to you too late? Whatever it is you have to do, you know I'll always wait. Oh, wait until the moment. Watch the western sky. The signs are real and I can feel our planets all aligned. When I knew the day I saw you, that you were waiting to break my heart a little, and I'll do the same for you. Do the same for you. Something in your eyes.
Nice vocal, David.
Oh, thank you. An extra applause for Andreas Dahlbäck. Okay, let's go to page 6 out of 23.
You cut me off at any time if I start to bastardly opinionate too long. You just...
So, Oh, we did a few pages. That's nice. So, you already actually answered my previous question. What you look for in a melody? You talked about graphic. But then again, if John Lennon came to you, hey, Brad, I got this new song.
Well, first of all, if her attitude is unmistakable, and if the lyric is colorful and provocative, then that's a perfectly great melody. Bob Dylan sort of proved that to us. So there are ways to, but if that melody also has a bland lyric, then we have problems.
Like, for instance, when I was younger, so much younger.
Yeah. Exactly.
So Lennon would be approved for his...
Yeah, because it's not only that he had a colorful lyric, but there was a good attitude in his voice. You knew who he was.
So when you write, I don't know if you share the mutual problem with myself and many of the students I've met in songwriting classes, that you fill up your phone, voice memo 95, voice memo 96, with those little melodic ideas or a little riff or whatever, and you keep. I used to fill up micro cassettes in the 90s.
Too, yeah.
And how do you actually work as an editor? How do you sift among all these possibly good ideas?
Yeah, it's difficult, and sometimes the good ones, you forget about them because you misplaced that little microcassette, It's tough to keep them all together. But I suppose the conscientious songwriter would keep track of his or her little ideas. Once a week, kind of thin it out, get rid of the bad ones, keep the good ones, keep it organized, I don't know how else to do it.
But the key question here is, how do you know when it's a good one?
Oh, well, you usually know if you don't know the day you do it. You know a couple weeks later when you hear it. You click through the 5 ideas and you know right away which ones are good and which ones aren't. But you never know on that same day. It's the same thing with the mix. If you're mixing a record, you never know if the mix is any good until you hear it the next day. You don't have any idea while you're doing it.
So let's say it's a day, 2 weeks later, and you sift through your ideas and you hear, oh, that's good. What is it that makes you think it's good?
Oh.
Deep question.
See, if we could put that in a can and sell it, we would all be rich.
Exactly.
There's just that unnameable thing. First of all, it has to be alive. It has to sound like it's bursting out instead of you have to coax it out. It has to sound alive. It has to have range and breadth and color and energy, really. Or a point of view. A point of view can go a long way. If the song sustains a real point of view, like it's coming from an envious place for 3 minutes, or it's coming from a generous place, whatever the place it's coming from, that's the point of view. And if it sustains it for 3 minutes, that's a great thing.
Great. So that's the way you work when you get a production assignment. Do you sometimes get like a bunch of songs, and as a producer, you're supposed to pick up the good ones?
All the time. And I usually pick ones that the artist hadn't picked. The artist usually chooses the songs that, from them being inside the song, they think it's their best one. I hear one that they might have thought was just sort of this strange one that they never really took seriously. But to me, the strangeness of that little, the runt, the small pig of the brother pigs, the runt of the litter, the strangeness of that one is what appeals to me, and I want to take that and amplify it. Amplify the weirdness of that little also ran, the Dark Horse song. And sometimes the singer thinks the obvious one is the great one because that sounds like what they hear on the radio or something, but from my point of view, that's the problem. It might sound just like all those other songs that she feels or he feels they're expected to write.
I asked you to suggest a couple of tunes. I wanted not only to play songs that I've written, or actually in this case that we wrote together, but I wanted you to pick examples from your long career. And one song you picked for us to play now is called Angel by Tommy Womack.
Tommy Womack.
Do you want to talk a little about him or that song?
Well, yeah, very briefly. Tommy Womack is an eccentric who is very beloved in the city of Nashville. He never really went national or had a big hit, but he's considered to be kind of a brilliant local songwriter, a great lyric writer, great with words. Kind of not a great voice, but that doesn't matter. It's like he just has brilliant lyric ideas. And when David asked me to choose a song this week to do by an artist that I've worked with, I had been thinking about Tommy because he's had 2 years of very bad things happening to him, bad luck. And so I chose one of his songs that I had produced on his last record that seems to be him talking about his bad luck. He's a smart man, which means, he's kind of this atheist who he's too proud to ask God for help because, God never listens. But he's not too proud to ask an angel. So that's why the song's called Angel.
For this one, we're going to introduce my dear friend, colleague, and extremely talented harmonica player, Mr. Mikael Bäckman.
Hello, Mike. I just call him Mike because I can never quite figure out the right pronunciation of Mikael. All right.
Did you co-write this song?
No, I just produced it, and so it was kind of an easy choice for one to do because I didn't really have to memorize anything. When you've mixed a song, you've heard it 500 times, you don't have to, you already know it, right?
All right.
I think Tommy sings it better than I do, but at least I can get the point across of the song. 1, 2, 3, 4. Angel, why don't you see me? I'm waving my arms here. I'm waving my arms here. Hello, angel, why don't you hear me? I'm making such noise here, losing my voice here. Hello, angel, you got me on my knees. I got problems, I'm in love. Angel, help a brother out. Help a brother out now. How long I gotta shout now? Hello, angel, why don't you hear me? I'm singing out loud here. I'm drawing a crowd here. Hello, angel, you got me on my knees. I got problems, I'm in love. Angel, angel, hello. Tommy Womack. He might be on Spotify.
I remember once you described your work process, what you've been doing for 25 years. You said, what I do as a producer, I look for the good parts, and then I say, can we have more of those? Yeah. It sounded very wise.
Yeah, it's easy, really. Just pick up the good stuff and do it twice.
That's many times my advice also to when I get a song to review, and I say, yeah, just do it a little bit more. There's a tendency maybe for upcoming writers to be nervous about saying the same thing too many times. Also, you made a recommendation once to write fast. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, you know, there's something about writing fast. You're just going with your first instinct, and it's more about your body energy and the energy that's in your voice and your mouth. I even take it to the point where sometimes if I'm writing and I feel a little bit stuck, I stand up and I put my foot up on a stool like this. And I just put the guitar on my knee, and just the act of standing up makes me a little more careless and makes me freer and have a little more sort of body energy, and I just play. But when I'm sitting down and my notebook's right in front of me, I'm being careful the whole time, and I'm looking at my notebook, and you know. So I tell songwriters that all the time. Just, if you're stuck with writing, put on your strap and walk around your house singing as loud as you can, but never sing the same idea for more than 3 or 4 minutes. 3 or 4 minutes, sing a whole new idea, go get a cookie, come back, and then just start randomly strumming something else, you know. And it's just, you know, to keep changing like that's good, you know.
Maybe get an electric guitar for once,
Sure.
connect to an amp, and
Yeah,
you know.
just always changing it. Don't stay in one place for too long, you know. And then I think the best idea is, any songwriter will tell you this, when they always ask a songwriter about his best song, he's always like, yeah, that's the one that took 7 minutes. We don't know why that happens, but when lightning strikes, it happens all at once. And you can't just coax lightning for hour after hour. If you've done that, just go to a different idea, you know.
Do you sometimes write to constraints? You say to yourself, now I'm going to make a song in 168 BPM or in the key of E flat minor, or I'm going to write this kind of song for that kind of artist, or do you just write freely, whatever comes to you?
Yeah, the answer to that would be no. I don't think I've ever done that. I mean, 'cause co-writing can be like that, because you know what the other person is. But when I'm writing for myself, I don't think I've ever done that.
And a typical songwriting session in Nashville, I don't know if you do that kind of writing where you go to write for other artists a lot.
I don't. And to me, the Nashville co-write, which is a thing, is way different than the co-write you and I did, this transatlantic co-write. I like the transatlantic one because it's a hybrid. It's hybridizing your views with mine, and they're different. We come from different places. A lot of people argue that's where the best music came from. Hybrids, you know, jazz. You've got black Americans who used to be slaves that bring their sense of rhythm to this new sense of harmony that kind of came over from Europe and from Ravel or whoever, and they put it together and they got this unexpected hybrid. The Beatles were a hybrid of dance hall and R&B. You know, everything that's good is kind of this sudden crashing of cultures. But the problem with the Nashville co-write is those men and women that go into those little rooms in the publishing houses, they're already on the same. There's no hybrid. They're all working in the same cubicle with the same job description. So I hate the Nashville co-writes. I think that they're usually for a reason. They're to try to make a hit that can fit into contemporary country radio. But beyond that, I don't think that they're the right kind of co-writing.
Cool, thanks for that insight. I also wanted to bring up a word that might give you, I don't know, mixed feelings. The word is power pop. It's a genre that my band was accused of being in when we were the Merrymakers. We thought we were writing mainstream worldwide hits like Crowded House, Everywhere You Go, Always Change the Weather. I mean, we thought we were Roxette. We're gonna break. But then when we came to LA for the first time, we realized that we were in this little small subgenre called power pop, where everybody wore thick glasses and had been listening to Raspberries and Badfinger in 1974, and everybody, of course, loved the work by the Beatles, the Byrds, but the Beach Boys. But it was like time went on, and the power pop fans were still in that world. So, but with the years, I've become more and more aware that that's me. It's a great description of what I do. So, how is your feeling when you hear you're a power pop producer?
Well, I don't think I am a power pop producer. I think that people put me in the power pop thing because I made a solo record 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that sounded like power pop. And then later when I started to produce, people just assumed that I was producing power pop. But really I was doing mostly singer-songwriter stuff and also some rock. And I wouldn't say I do a whole lot of power pop. I do some power pop, you know, but I would say that's probably about, I don't know, 20% of what I've done.
Yeah.
But, you know, labels last a long time. Once the label exists, it's tough to relabel, you know.
And the funny thing is that power pop artists can make songs like a bossa nova or a little piano ballad. But one power pop record you produced that I think we're all in agreement was power pop is this one. It's a band called the Shazam.
That sounds like rock and roll to me.
Rain is fine, but like sunshine. Good morning, Grace. I shake my head, I'm on my way. The roaring pain just blows away. Can't sit down.
Sounds amazing. You produced this?
Yeah, they're a good band. They're a really good band.
The guitars, it sounds like almost like Queens of the Stone Age, but 10 years before.
Yeah, and more melodic. I mean, that's part of the power pop thing. Just keep good melodies in.
So then I know that you're 20% power pop producer.
Yeah, I mean, if a power pop band came to me tomorrow and wanted to make a record, if they had good songs, I'd say great. But if the songs are just okay or they're just doing retreads of old classic pop songs, then I wouldn't be very interested.
And your solo album from, who knows what years, it was from 95 or something like that?
Yeah.
Was that recorded under some simple circumstances?
Yeah. It was mostly before I had a professional recording studio. A lot of it was done in my basement on an 8-track.
And why didn't you make any follow-up albums as a solo artist?
I just got involved working with other people. I very quickly started producing, and then I just didn't have the time and the energy to do it. Plus, I didn't feel very compelled. You know, I mean, I didn't feel a burning need to be a solo artist. I just like working with different people. You know, like I just spent the last 6 days working with 2 different bands. I like that. I like getting in with a group of people and getting to know them and finding out what their different problems and strengths are, and then getting friendly with them, and then you end up with a cool thing that you've made together, you know, and then you can go to the next thing and have the same experience over again. I like the freshness of that. I found that if I spent too many months working on my own stuff, I started to kind of just to be too inside myself, and didn't lead to happiness. More angst than happiness.
But your album made a few people happy.
Yeah,
it's a great album.
I like the one I did with Hans better.
Yeah, we're going to come to that actually in a little while. Where do you get your inspiration for your production? Are there particular producers that inspire you?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's we all know the great producers. You can learn so much by studying what they've done, and I did. You know, I took a look at all of them. You know, I wanted to find out what made it tick. And then, you know, a few years ago, I felt like I'd pretty much figured it out. I kind of figured out who the great producers were, and I learned a lot from just seeing what they'd done. And then the craziest things started happening. The industry started to change. So, like I said earlier in the interview, I ended up working for artists, not for labels. Where I live, there's not many labels anymore. You know, you're really kind of creating music for the artist. They might pay out of their own pocket. They might do a Kickstarter thing. They might be on a label. It's sort of, you know, a hero, like an angel label, where they come in and they're just helping the artist. But it caused me to look more, not just at the sounds I was making, but if I can do more than just make sounds, try to tell a story. You know, there's so many people that are really accomplished at getting super great, shiny sounds, and I just didn't have enough hours in my day to put in the time to do that. What I decided to do 10, 15 years ago is to try to bring out the personality of the artist more. And part of that is finding out who they are, what the song is saying, and how can we amplify the personality of the song, or you could say the story of that song. I think a good song or a good album should be like a great piece of literature. It should have a great beginning, a great middle, and a great ending. It should go somewhere and be. And we live in a technological age. It's easy for everyone just to enjoy the amazing colors that's on the screen of their Mac laptop. Oh, look at the colors! But at the end of the day, doing that, when you've been doing that all day, and you come home to listen to music, I still think that we want to be moved or transported or get invited into this singer's world. Through their voice or the way they're singing, feel like you could know something about them. That's part of why that Tommy Womack song I picked earlier, even though he doesn't have a great voice, and some of the records he's done with me or with other producers, they don't sound amazing, but they show his story. His story comes across. So the interesting thing with producers that I was studying is now I really look more to filmmakers. I find I got in this real kick of reading memoirs of filmmakers where they talk about what they went through when they had this group of actors. And with this group of actors, they only had 4 weeks to really tell this story. And how do you do it? And how do you get the most out of the actors and make them work together and show emotion or create or even recreate emotion? That's the problem. You have to recreate it because you've sung the song 20 times already. I read the memoirs of the great director Sidney Lumet. He did Serpico and Network, and his whole book was about actors and being a director that understands actors. And then I read Ingmar Bergman's memoir, which was called My Life in Film, which I recommend to anybody. Same thing. I found what he talked about making movies so inspiring to me, and I took what I learned from his struggle into record making. Another great one is Kurosawa, the great Japanese director. His memoir, I learned more reading his memoir about record producing than I did reading George Martin's book. I can't explain it, but if you just give it a try, you might see what I mean. Because it's really about storytelling at this point, or it should be. Even the music should be telling a story.
Fantastic. Thank you for those recommendations. We're going to go to a next case study. I came up with a little melody, and I'm going to unravel the process now to everybody's excitement, hopefully. A song that started with the working title, Shitty Day. It was it was about, you know, how words just come out, and I thought, it's a shitty day, but it doesn't matter because I'm here with you. So that was kind of a romantic little twist to it, but Brad wisely recommended me to change the title later. But let's go back to my little writing room. When I came into the room, I thought, I'm going to write a song today. And the piano was covered by some other stuff. And the guitar was lying around with a capo on the 4th fret. And only by picking it up and fiddling with the fingers, it kind of suggested a melody. This is where I'm sitting down. Kapot råkar sitta på, hitta ett grepp.
I can say what you know the way. I can say what you wanna say. I love it in any way. I can, and you know where. I love it in a new name.
And I thought to myself, this chord progression is not very interesting, and I didn't like the second line, so I went on.
When you look at me, you see all that seems. I love it and what it means.
And that was the chord where I thought, that's a nice chord. And so I went on, and I thought maybe this is a AABA song where I'm not looking for a chorus, I'm looking for a B part. And I found that later. But I decided to skip it, actually, when I sent it over to Brad, because I wasn't so excited about the second part. I will play you just briefly.
Still there.
Oops, sorry. Here we are.
Now everything's gone.
I'm not finding it now. The world will still be in mystery about that part. But I sent it over anyway. Simple demo like this.
It's all gone wrong and the sky is gray. What anyone would call a shitty day. I'm still glad 'cause I spent it all with you.
And I didn't have anything else. I was just a minute and a half singing that part and a little guitar riff. And then I came to Brad and you said something nice once to me. Once? Yeah. I will quote you. I walked around for 2 days thinking about that melody. I really like it. I think musically there's something there. I don't know if you really want to call your song Shitty Day, but you know, like Lousy Day or Cloudy Day. And turned out you had been kind of walking around the house making a B part. I don't know if you did it actively, but it sounded like this when you presented it to me.
It's just a fragment, right? You know?
Exactly, it's very much so.
So if the chorus, actually we'll call that a verse, really. That sounds like the verse, and then we're looking for just sort of like a B part.
Yeah.
So if that's the verse, I hear it like this. I like your melody. Different pacing here. Still try. Let me do that again. Still trying, nothing comes a day. 'Cause all I do is
So you kept 2 lines and then you changed the third one?
couldn't help myself.
And then you suggested this B part that comes here.
Sounds complete there.
Yeah.
And then the B part. 'Cause if it's I can say if it's well, we both know.
And that sounded so simple and to my ears very, very beautiful. Of course you won't remember now how that happened?
No. Okay. I'm sorry.
Sorry, world, we're not going to get an insight on that process. And that's actually part of my little written part of this thesis is actually going to only treat, you know, the parts I contributed. I can't go into your brain as much as I would love to, and apparently it's not possible to pick it on things that happened a couple of years ago. Normal. Anyway, it's time for the world premiere, and we're going to invite Andreas Dahlbäck back on stage.
Well, I might not remember it, but I do really like it. I really, really like these songs that David and I wrote together. They're some of my favorite songs. I'm not just saying that. I really like these songs a lot, very much. And they happen because you started it.
Yeah, I
So,
mean,
you know, that's the great thing about co-writes. You can say what you want about them, but if it causes someone to get involved, it's a good thing. And you caused me to get involved in these 2 songs that I now love. I want to put that other tune, Wait Until the Moment, I want to put that on my next record.
Oh, yeah?
With your permission.
Of course.
If I get around to a next record.
I have a bootleg version of you demonstrating how you wanted me to sing it, and it gave me a tough time. It was like a little bit when I worked with another still a musical hero of mine, Andy Sturmer from Jellyfish in the 90s. He was saying like, David, sing like this. She packed in January, and it was like, ooh, why don't you sing it? It was difficult.
You sang it great.
But thanks for the inspiration. And Andreas, for the record, do you like this song?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, and I pay him for coming here, so... Well, actually, the school pays, right? He's also teaching today, so I'm keeping people busy. Let's see, can we remember this one?
Yeah.
That's where we start.
Okay.
3, 4...
On the street, all alone. No big plans, no place to go. Keep thinking something'll come my way. I can't go home, no one's there. In the park there's lovers everywhere, but still waiting for my lucky day. When something's right, I get this sense of fate. It might take time, but love is worth the wait. I can't go home, no one's there. People smile, but they don't care. Still waiting for my lucky day. Windows glow, fires burn, people laugh and dinner's served, but not me, I hurry on my way. Friends embrace, lovers kiss, strike a race he just can't miss, but I'm waiting for my lucky day. When she's around, she holds some kind of key. It's like I found the other part of me. Oh, friends embrace, lovers kiss, no one here for me to miss, but I'm waiting for my lucky, just waiting for my lucky. I'm still here waiting for my lucky day.
How do we do it?
Thank you, Andreas, on conga and harmony vocals. Are you having fun, Brad?
I'm having a great time. I even enjoyed the sound check, just running these songs with you. It was fun.
It's, I mean, it's really world premiere. It's like learning a cover song because I don't even know how the guitar was played. And how are you enjoying yourself out there? Are you fine? Okay, good. I hope there will be time for some questions later from the audience as well. I think we're doing fine. It's 27 more minutes to go.
Well, sorry about that short answer on the last one. I'll try to make up some stuff next time. I do have a really bad memory, I'll admit.
So, divided into percentages, are you musician, songwriter, producer, engineer, and artist? Is like
you know, if I meet someone at a party, you know, someone my wife works with or something, they ask me what I do, I just say I'm a musician. It's easier than explaining about what producers do or what mixers do or what bass players do, you know. I do wear a lot of different hats, you know. Sometimes people call me to play on their record. I'll go play bass on someone's record or keyboards. I mix, I engineer, but I just sort of engineer because I'm already producing, and it's easier for me to engineer than to have to blab out loud to some guy, tell him what to do all day long. It's just easier for me just to do it myself. I get tired of my own voice when I'm telling an engineer what to do all day. But basically, I always try to consider myself a musician primarily that does these other things also just to get the job done. That's how I see myself.
And I've seen with my own eyes, being in the studio with Brad, presenting, well, we actually had some pre-production at the kitchen table and also by email, but then in the studio, Brad was out in the live room, instructing, talking to Andreas and to the guitar player, and some advice to me, putting up the mics at the same time, and then entering the control room, playing rec and play, and whatever the buttons are called, and you were twiddling the knobs, and then the bass on top of that, and then 3, 4, boom, and you were like engineering, producing, and playing at the same time. Quite impressive.
Had a couple cymbals between my knees. I had a kazoo going the same time.
So I need to mention one album that I really enjoyed, and I know that Joakim Lundqvist here also enjoyed back in the day, was an album by Josh Rouse called 1972. One of those albums I picked up, and then I discovered, oh, who produced this? Of course, Brad Jones. Josh Rouse is one of the artists that have become bigger among those you have worked with, or?
Well, I don't know if he's really gotten bigger. I think right now he's kind of less big than he was a couple years ago. His fans have gotten older, you know, they have kids, they don't go to the show anymore. But he still makes records, and he makes high-quality records. And he's one of those guys that, you know, I'm happy, you know, it's like if back to the filmmaker thing, he's like one of the actors that I like. We've done many movies together. So we've got this thing, you know. I think I've done 4 or 5 records with Josh. And he's a musical seeker, and he's also a musical enthusiast. When the music's going well, he laughs out loud. He's joyous in this musical exploration. So he's a guy I like to be making records with.
He seems to be liking you as well. He says, it's always fun, I'm quoting from an interview from bullseye.com, always fun to do a record with Brad because you learn new things, new information about different cultures, what different people are doing, and musically he's really incredible. He plays a lot of things, and he's really fast, he's great at arranging songs. He's kind of my little George Martin, I guess. He helps out with all the orchestration and arrangement, and he knows all the theory and is really quick. That's his quote. Do you know all the theory?
I know all the theory.
Amazing. So do you write like arrangements for strings?
I do. I arrange strings.
You write the sheet music?
Yep.
So when did you learn that?
Well, you know, when I was a boy, I took music lessons. You know, I studied piano for 7 years. And, you know, then I discovered the electric guitar, and the piano kind of went away for a while. But it came back. And so now when I arrange strings, I'm very much back to, you know, the piano and that devil program Sibelius. I figured out Sibelius. It took a minute, but I got it going.
Were you ever in a band?
Yeah, I was in bands all through my 20s. That's part of how I got into production. All the bands I was in my 20s, I was always the guy at the rehearsal that had all the ideas, and the other guys in the band like, shut up, okay, all right, we'll try it. And then I got to Nashville, and I was substituting in a guy's band because his bass player was sick. So I came in to substitute, and I went to the rehearsal. And evidently, at the rehearsal, I had all these ideas, and I'm just the sub, you know, and being the opinionated bastard, I had a bunch of ideas for their arrangements at the rehearsal, and they tried some of them, and they got compliments after the gig. And so the leader of the band goes, hey, we'd like you to produce our record because we like your ideas. And I said, I can't do that because I've never produced. And he said, well, you're going to produce. And so that's how it happened.
Okay, so that's
I just sort of stumbled into it by being, you know, a loudmouth full of ideas. I'm sure there's other situations where I had a lot of ideas and the people didn't like it. And I didn't get asked to work with those people again. You can't win them all, right?
But there seems to be a tendency about artists coming back to you. You said 5 albums with Josh Rouse. I'm sure there's a couple more. And Tommy Womack recorded with you in the 98.
I've done 4 Chuck Prophet records. Those are my favorite rock and roll records that I've done. Yeah, and I've got a lot of repeat offenders.
I have this icebreaker question. When I go to a dinner party and I don't know what to talk about, I always ask, what 5 albums would you bring to a desert island? And people get confused, of course, and they spend ages. But you only have a minute. It can be favorites from your youth or current favorites, but you have to live with them for the rest of your life. And you can't bring double albums or greatest hits albums.
So the White Album's out?
The White Album's out. Tom Petty's greatest hits is out. You have to...
Well, I'd have to take the first record I ever bought, which was Sgt. Pepper. I bought that when I was 7 years old.
Famous record.
$3, brand new, yeah. So I'd have to take that because it's just part of me. I mean, or anything that I heard when I was 13. It's like when you're 13, even bad music sounds great. You're just a sponge at that age, you know. So I'd probably get some awful, terrible grand funk record or something. But I was 13, so it's part of me now, you know. But, you know, I would probably take João Gilberto's Live at Montreux. I'd probably take that. It's probably the greatest Brazilian record ever made. It's just him and his guitar for 70 minutes. I'd probably take that. I'd probably want to take at least one jazz record, you know. I mean, I guess I'd probably take maybe an Ellington record. You know, one of the Ellington records, Black and Tan Fantasy or something.
I think you have one more.
Your record, your new record.
David Myhr's Lucky Day.
I'm not kidding. The new record is actually really good. I recommend getting it. It's a very good record.
I really like you, Brad. Yeah, so, you know, it's going to look nice besides Sgt. Pepper and Ellington's.
Yeah, it's going to look good there. Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about the other album that you're the artist behind, together with the singer in this band, the Shazam that we talked about earlier. He's called Hans Rottenberry, and he seems to be a favorite singer of yours. Is that rumor true?
It is, yeah. I just always loved his voice so much, and when I started to get the feeling to make another solo record, 20 years later, you know, I'm like Spock. Every 7 years I go back to Vulcan and make a pop record. So anyway, I just kept picturing these melodies I'd been working on, but I pictured Hans singing them because I like his voice better than my voice. And so we just got together and we ended up writing 11 songs together in about 2 weeks. We went out to my cabin. I had a cabin in the woods, and we just went out there and just wrote in isolation. It was a great experience.
And I think it was 5 years ago when I discovered this record, and I thought, oh, Brad has made a record again, let's check it out. And it became a true favorite of mine, together with another album that I picked up from Tim Christensen, Danish artist. So those two albums were kind of my latest discoveries, and still are. I need to listen to more new music, I guess. But for me, it's going to be a bit surreal to now kind of climb into the record and perform a song from it together with Brad. Unfortunately, I'm going to try to do Hans.
Oh, you can
part.
do it.
I might use falsetto because it's a really high thing. We're going to invite Mikael Bäckman again to the stage.
If there happens to be any members of the Finnish army out there today, the band, not the Finnish military organization, but members of Finnish army who I just worked with, see if you spot the Deep Purple reference in these lyrics. There's one hiding in there.
All right. The song is called "A Likely Lad" and is, I think, the opener on or is it the second song?
Second song.
On this album, fantastic album called "Mountain Jack" by Brad Jones and Hans Rottenberry.
If you go on Spotify, it's by Hans Rottenberry and Brad Jones.
Oh.
So look under the H's.
And "Mountain Jack."
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, now I know which song it is.
1, 2, 3, 4. When I left Oklahoma, my 10-cent diploma was pinned up in my sleeve. On a gray cold Christmas Eve, I flew. 'Cause the grass is always greener for us in-betweeners, and who can say we're wrong? I believe my time is long, don't you? And now the sun's in my eyes and I'm smiling like the maker at the dawn of time. So good I'm bad, I'm a likely lad. And mama, can you spare a dime? Well, I said it in a letter, but it didn't feel better. That girl was part of me, but I cut myself in 3 that day. Now a lot of people whisper that I didn't even miss her, and no one seems alarmed. You can see he's lost his charm, they say. And now the sun's in my eyes and I'm smiling like the maker at the dawn of time. So good I'm bad, I'm a likely lad, and mama, can you spare a dime? But oh, she's a girl who'll tell you what is and isn't true. And oh, she can burn so bright, and you start to see the strings attached to all you say and do. Well, now everybody's crying, and I'm still trying to roll on down the road where the highway stars explode all night. Now the sun's in my eyes and I'm smiling like the maker at the dawn of time. So good I'm bad, I'm a likely lad, grandmother, can you spare a dime? And now the sun's in my eyes and I'm smiling like the maker at the dawn of time. So good I'm bad, I'm a likely lad. And mother, can you spare a dime?
All right.
Thanks.
Such a great song. Can you put on the guitar, please? I love the verse. I love the chorus.
Yeah.
But then this, oh, do 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 do. You do like,
Oh yeah.
do 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 do.
Yeah. Oh, there's a girl who'll tell you what is and
I would be happy with that as a bridge. But then you go, do 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 do, and it goes
Yeah.
That's what I like the most. Just so you know.
Yeah, it's kind of a twist.
Yeah.
It kind of morphs into a different place. I guess you use a 7 chord that's really not supposed to be there. And the 7 chord kind of throws you into different tonality for a minute.
Yeah, I think you're changing keys. I don't know. We have
kinda,
talked to Mattias Lundqvist about if we end up in D for a while and then you go back somehow. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know which key.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway.
But you know, it's the people in Finnish Army had to hear about this. But you know, my philosophy of bridges, if it just sits there, it shouldn't be there. But if it takes you on a different road for a minute, then it's worth being there, because then it feels good to go to the different road, and it feels great to go back to the main road. So if you do the bridge right, you get a good feeling coming in and coming out. If you don't get that feeling both times, then just don't use a bridge. Just don't do it.
They are kind of overrated in general.
Yeah.
I like doing bridges because it kind of, the little part where you can kind of freak out.
Yeah.
But maybe, yeah, I think Jeff Lynne said the same thing. I don't do bridges. I mean,
I do bridges, but that just has to be worth being there. Don't just do a bridge because you feel you're supposed to.
all right, let's check if we have some questions from the audience. Do we have a question for Brad?
Lada, yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering, since you live in Nashville, and Nashville is like an epicenter of modern country music, which is a big industry on its own, do you ever feel, and you're kind of like a singer-songwriter more kind of guy, do you ever feel isolated, or are you considered like underground?
I don't.
Can you repeat shortly
Yeah,
what you said?
she said because I live in the epicenter of commercial country, Nashville? Do I ever feel isolated because I do pop? No, I don't pay any attention to those people, and they don't pay any attention to me. And in my world, I have all kinds of people that I work with. We're not isolated. There's all kinds of people, singer-songwriters, Josh Rouse type. Josh just moved back to Nashville. He's been living in Spain for 8 years, but he just moved back. And I have all kinds of, it's my world that I'm part of. You know, Nashville's got many different, it's like a big pie. There's different slices. There's a whole slice of Nashville, believe it or not, that's jazz people. In Nashville, can you believe that? And they're good. So it just depends what crowd you're hanging out with, you know. And also, when I first moved there 25 years ago, that pie was maybe 75% country and 25% weirdos like me. And now the weirdos have taken over. It's about 60 or 70% pop and rock and jazz and about 40% country. Of course, there is country, the 40% that does happen makes a lot of money because it's a big product. But as far as just being in clubs and going to studios and seeing where the music's being made that night, country's in the minority.
Good, we have a question. We had a question. Do we have more questions? I'm sure we have. I'm going to wait at least 25 seconds until I say we don't have any more questions.
Looks like we covered it all.
That's 15. Okay, so anyone comes up with a question, just shout it out. I'm going to try to round off here. But let's see, on page 25, if I have... Yeah, I mean, making music is fantastic. The creative process is amazing, but there are some difficulties nowadays earning a living from this. There's a film coming out soon called The Last Songwriter, some kind of documentary that takes place in Nashville about how extremely little portion of whatever streaming money comes in that goes to the songwriter. And shall we end on a depressing note and talk a little bit about this? Yeah, I think that would be nice.
Yeah, let's do a bummer.
Yeah. Now we had fun. Now let's go to the depressing part. But maybe if you could round it off with some kind of positive way forward.
Well, I'll say this. You know, there's a really great band in Nashville called Lamb Chop. They have between 10 and 13 members, depending on when it happens. And the credo of that band comes from the leader, Kurt Wagner. He's very serious about this. Everybody in the band has to have a day job. If they don't have a day job, he doesn't let them in the band. The reason is he's afraid that if people don't have day jobs, they'll try to write commercial songs. But if everyone has a day job, then they just get together that night and they just do crazy, freaky stuff because they're not trying to make money at it and they're freer creatively. So if you don't hate your day job, it's not a bad thing that you're not so concerned about monetizing your song anymore. You're still going to be creative. And then also for me, from a producer's point of view, seeing these budgets shrink so much the last few years. You know, I'm making records. I made records. I was lucky enough to make records in the 90s when the budgets were big. And the snack platter was piled high with every kind of sandwich you can imagine. And thousands of dollars in the budget just to rent stuff.
What about the cocaine?
Well, of course. Yeah. But, of course, that doesn't exist now. These budgets are a third or a half of what they were, if you're lucky. It forced me to change my process, and I've actually kind of been happy about it. And like, for instance, the student bands that I just worked with have experienced this new project, this new process, which is I used to have the luxury of doing just 2 days of drum loops, and then on the third day you bring the bass player and the drummer in, you take your time, and then on day 5 you bring in some guitars, and you know. Now I just get musicians to talk about the song, to feel it for a little while, and then they go play it at the same time without a click track, just to, because the necessity, we don't have time anymore to do it any other way. But what I like about it is it's brought a real humanity back to record making for me that might have gone a little stale for me. When I went too far down the sort of controlled drum loop, click track, layer, one step at a time, I think I might have been losing some of my own soul. And now I am a witness to these great musical moments that pop out accidentally when 4 or 5 people get in a room together and start sparking off of each other. It's been a great experience. So there are good things about it. You know, it's forcing us to sort of maybe, I don't know, make music in a more organic way again.
That's a positive end note, and thank you, Brad Jones, for coming to the School of Music at Luleå University of Technology in Piteå, in Norrbotten, Sweden, very far off from Nashville. And I hope you come back some other time and let's make more music together, you and I, and the students, and you, and everybody together. Thank you, Brad Jones.
Thank you. Thanks.
And thank you, Mikael Bäckman and Andreas Dahlbäck, for helping us out. So, thank you very much again.